The deep space scanner beeped softly in the quiet observation deck of the research vessel. Harmony's Edge and Ambassador Veltara lifted her blue-scaled head from the datapad she had been reading. Her large, dark eyes focused on the glowing display that showed a yellow star system in the outer rim of what the locals called the Milky Way galaxy. The scanner had detected something interesting, and she called for Dr. Kimseth to come look at the readings. Dr. Kimseth glided over on his tentacles, his gas-filled body floating gracefully in the ship's low-pressure atmosphere that was perfect for his species. He examined the data with his multiple eye stalks and made soft clicking sounds of interest. The third planet from the star showed clear signs of intelligent life with radio signals, organized settlements, and what appeared to be primitive space technology. "Another garden world species ready for uplift," Kimseth said in the musical language of the Galactic Harmony Collective. "They appear to be bipedal mammals with basic technology. Standard protocol should work perfectly." Veltara nodded, and her gill slits fluttered with anticipation. In her 300 years as a first contact specialist, she had helped guide 47 species into the galactic community. Each time brought her joy as she watched primitive cultures discover they were not alone in the universe. The process was always the same: approach slowly, establish communication, offer friendship and technology, then gradually introduce them to the wider galaxy. Captain Holron entered the observation deck with heavy footsteps that made the delicate equipment vibrate slightly. His rocky, mineral-based body was built for the high-gravity world where his people evolved, making him one of the few species in the collective that could survive in what they called heavy world conditions. Even so, his home planet had gravity, only twice that of most garden worlds. "When do we make contact?" Holron asked in his grinding voice. "My security team is ready to escort the diplomatic mission." Veltara smiled with her lipless mouth. "There should be no need for security. Captain, look at their transmissions. They show no signs of aggressive expansion or military buildup. Their radio signals are mostly entertainment and information sharing. They seem to be a peaceful species focused on art and knowledge." Dr. Kimseth pulled up more data on his portable scanner. "Their planet appears ideal for life. Perfect temperature, range, abundant water, stable weather patterns. They should be very similar to the Plexani or the gentle Mothari we contacted last century." The three aliens studied the peaceful blue and green planet on their main screen. White clouds drifted over vast oceans and continents covered in what appeared to be forests and grasslands. Cities glowed softly on the night side of the planet, showing organized but not overly aggressive development. Everything looked perfect for a standard first contact mission. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lieutenant Commander Dae-ho sat in the monitoring station on Jeju Island, watching the same stars that the aliens were using to observe his world. The Korean Space Force had been tracking unusual signals for 3 days, and today something had changed. The signals were getting stronger and seemed to be coming from just outside the solar system. Dae-ho picked up his communication device and called Dr. Yun-mi at Seoul National University. As the country's leading expert in theoretical xenolinguistics, she would need to know about this development immediately. "Dr. Yun-mi, we have confirmed non-terrestrial signals," Dae-ho said when she answered. "The patterns are too regular to be natural phenomena." Dr. Yun-mi felt her heart rate increase. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, even though she had never really believed it would happen. "How long until you can determine if they are trying to communicate?" "Unknown. Director Tae-sung wants you here within 6 hours to begin analysis." Back on the alien ship, Ambassador Veltara was reviewing the contact protocols that had been perfected over thousands of years. The Galactic Harmony Collective had learned that slow, careful introduction was key to helping primitive species adjust to the reality of galactic civilization. Too much information too quickly could cause cultural shock or even complete societal breakdown. The plan was simple: establish basic mathematical communication, learn their language, introduce the concept of peaceful alien life, offer basic technologies that would improve their quality of life, and gradually introduce them to other species. The process usually took between 50 and 100 of their local years, depending on how quickly the species adapted. "Have you analyzed their biology yet?" Veltara asked Dr. Kimseth. Preliminary scans show they are carbon-based mammals, approximately 2 meters tall, with standard bipedal structure. Their brain development appears adequate for space travel. Technology within a few centuries. Nothing unusual compared to the hundreds of species we have contacted before. Captain Holran studied the planet's defensive capabilities. They have primitive chemical rockets and basic satellites, no energy, weapons detected, no signs of planetary defense systems. They appear to have divided their world into separate territorial groups that engage in minor conflicts, but nothing that suggests serious military capability. Veltara was pleased. Peaceful species were always easier to work with than aggressive ones. The last military species they had contacted, the Wartalk, had required nearly 2 centuries of careful negotiation before they agreed to join the collective. These humans seemed much more reasonable. Dr. Kimzeth began preparing the standard first contact package, basic mathematical concepts, peaceful intentions, and simple gifts of technology that would demonstrate the benefits of galactic membership. The translator systems were loaded with learning algorithms that could decode any language within days of first contact. I estimate we can have basic communication established within 1 local week, Kimzeth reported. Their radio transmissions show a highly developed mathematical and scientific understanding. They should be able to grasp our peaceful intentions quickly. The alien ship moved closer to Earth, staying just outside the range of human detection systems. They wanted to observe more before making contact, following protocols that had prevented misunderstandings with previous species. On Earth, Director Tae-sung assembled Korea's first contact committee in a secure facility in Seoul. The team included linguists, scientists, military advisors, and cultural experts. Dr. Yoon-mi arrived with her analysis of the signal patterns, confirming that they appeared to be artificial in origin. The signals show mathematical sequences and repeated patterns that suggest intelligence, she reported to the committee. If this is first contact, we need to be prepared for anything. Director Tae-sung nodded grimly. The signals are now coming from just beyond our outer sensor range. Whatever is sending them is in our solar system. Lieutenant Commander Daeho provided the military assessment. No signs of aggressive action. The signals appear to be observational in nature, like someone watching us from a distance. Dr. Yoon-mi had spent years studying how different cultures might react to discovering alien life. If they are observing us before making contact, that suggests they are cautious and possibly peaceful. An aggressive species would likely announce their presence with a show of force. Back on the alien ship, Ambassador Veltara made the final decision. Begin the approach sequence. Standard peaceful contact protocols. We will establish communication and begin the uplift process. The beautiful alien vessel moved toward Earth, its crystalline hull glowing softly with bioluminescent patterns that had calmed hundreds of primitive species. Inside, the 3 aliens prepared for what they expected to be a routine first contact mission with another peaceful garden world species. None of them had any idea they were about to encounter something that would challenge everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. The first message from the aliens arrived exactly 72 hours after their ship had moved into Earth's outer detection range, and Dr. Yoon-mi stared at the mathematical sequences that appeared on her screen with growing excitement. The patterns were clearly artificial and showed a level of sophistication that proved intelligence beyond any doubt. Ambassador Veltara watched from her ship as the humans responded to their greeting with their own mathematical sequences, confirming that the species understood basic logic and numerical concepts. The translation algorithms immediately began working to decode the human languages, starting with the radio transmissions that seemed most common across their communication networks. Excellent progress, Dr. Kimzeth reported as the computer. Systems began parsing human speech patterns. They have multiple languages, but the mathematical concepts are universal. We should have basic communication within days. Captain Holran remained skeptical about the whole process. Their planet shows signs of recent conflicts, multiple territorial divisions with different governments. They may not be as peaceful as they appear. Veltara dismissed his concerns with a wave of her webbed hand. Minor territorial disputes are common among developing species. The Harmony Collective includes dozens of species that had similar divisions during their primitive phases. On Earth, The First Contact Committee worked around the clock to establish meaningful communication with the alien visitors. Dr. Eunmi led a team of linguists who fed mathematical concepts and basic vocabulary into the communication array, hoping to build a foundation for more complex discussions. The breakthrough came when the aliens transmitted their first attempt at human language. The message was simple but clear. "Greetings, peaceful humans. We come as friends from distant stars. We wish to help your species grow." Director Tae-sung immediately organized a response team to craft humanity's reply. After hours of debate, they settled on a simple message. "Welcome to Earth. We are honored by your peaceful contact. We wish to learn from your wisdom." What happened next caught both species completely off guard. Dr. Kimseth began monitoring human communications more closely to better understand their culture before formal diplomatic contact. He expected to find the usual patterns of a garden world species. Art focused on natural beauty, entertainment centered on cooperation and harmony, and news broadcasts discussing peaceful community development. Instead, he found himself increasingly disturbed by what humans considered normal entertainment. The first movie he analyzed appeared to be a documentary about humans surviving various disasters, storms that could destroy buildings, earthquakes that split the ground open, and floods that covered entire regions. He assumed it was historical. "Footage of ancient catastrophes. Veltara," he called urgently. "I think this species may have survived a planetary catastrophe. Their entertainment shows massive natural disasters and survival scenarios." Ambassador Veltara reviewed the footage that Dr. Kimseth had flagged as concerning. The movie showed humans running from explosions, surviving in hostile environments, and enduring physical hardships that would kill most galactic species. She felt her gill slits flutter with anxiety. "This must be trauma response entertainment," she concluded. "They are processing historical disasters through their art. We should offer immediate psychological support along with our technological assistance." Meanwhile, Captain Holron was analyzing what humans called sports and becoming increasingly worried about the species' psychological state. He watched footage of humans deliberately hitting each other with padded weapons, running until they collapsed from exhaustion, and throwing their bodies into violent contact with each other. These humans engage in ritualized combat training, he reported to the diplomatic team. Even their children participate in organized fighting exercises they call games. On Earth, Captain Soo-jin of the Korean Navy was chosen to represent Earth's military in communications with the aliens. When the aliens asked about Earth's disaster recovery systems, she tried to explain that the storms, earthquakes, and floods they had seen in human media were just normal weather and geological activity. "Typhoons hit Korea every summer," she explained through the translation system. "We prepare for them, but they are just part of living here. The earthquakes are also normal. Our buildings are designed to handle them." The aliens received this message and immediately went into emergency consultation mode. Ambassador Veltara called an urgent meeting with the ship's psychological specialist, a gentle floating creature named Pax Uri, who specialized in helping traumatized species. They describe massive atmospheric disturbances and ground shifting. "Events as normal," Veltara explained to Pax Uri. "This species has clearly been trapped on a dying world for so long that they consider catastrophic events to be routine." Pax Uri's translucent body pulsed with empathetic colors. "The psychological damage must be severe. They have normalized extreme trauma as a survival mechanism. We need to prepare massive mental health support." Dr. Jae Won, an emergency medicine physician from Seoul, was asked to explain human medical procedures to help the aliens understand Earth's healthcare needs. He casually mentioned treating heart attacks, broken bones, severe cuts, and burns as routine parts of his daily work. The alien medical specialist, a crystalline being named Silvera, nearly shattered when she heard this description. On every garden world in the collective, serious injuries were extremely rare events that required specialists from multiple star systems. The idea that one doctor could routinely handle multiple life-threatening emergencies in a single day was incomprehensible. "They describe catastrophic bodily failures as common occurrences," Silvera reported in a shaking voice. "This species lives under constant threat of death from their own biology." Park Min-ho, a mountain rescue specialist, made the situation even worse when he was asked to describe his work. He explained how he regularly climbed dangerous peaks to rescue people who went hiking in extreme conditions for recreation. People enjoy challenging themselves against the mountain, he said cheerfully. Sometimes they get stuck in bad weather or injured on difficult routes, so we go get them. Dr. Kimseth required sedation after processing this information. The concept of deliberately entering hostile terrain for entertainment was so alien to his peaceful species that his mind could not properly process it. The situation reached a crisis point when the aliens asked about human food production. Farmer Dong Min from rural Gangwon province was chosen to explain agriculture to the visitors. He described dealing with droughts, floods, insect pests, plant diseases, and soil contamination as normal parts of growing food. Some years are harder than others, Dong Min explained. Last year we had too much rain, the year before too little. The insects are always trying to eat the crops, so we have to protect them. The soil needs constant care because it can become too acidic or lose its nutrients. The alien agricultural specialist, Growenth, immediately classified Earth as an agricultural disaster zone and began preparing emergency food aid calculations. The idea that a species could successfully farm on a planet where the growing conditions were constantly hostile was beyond his experience. Ambassador Veltara called another emergency meeting as reports continued to pour in from her analysis teams. Every aspect of human life seemed to involve surviving conditions that would be classified as emergency situations in galactic space. Their children attend schools, where they learn to deal with social conflict and competitive pressure, reported the education specialist. They consider preparation for difficulty to be a normal part of child development. Their transportation systems regularly operate in atmospheric conditions that would ground all flights in civilized space, added the infrastructure analyst. They travel through violent storms as a matter of routine. Their residential areas are built directly on geologically unstable terrain, said the habitat specialist. They construct buildings designed to survive the planet, actively trying to destroy them. Captain Holran, despite his concerns about human military capability, was beginning to develop a grudging respect for the species. Any people who can maintain civilization under these conditions must have incredible determination and strength. Dr. Kimseth, after recovering from his sedation, presented his preliminary cultural analysis to the diplomatic team. This species has developed what can only be described as pathological optimism. They interpret survival challenges as entertainment, view catastrophic weather as interesting, and consider living in constant danger to be normal. Ambassador Veltara felt overwhelmed by the scope of humanitarian aid that Earth would require. No species in the collective's history had ever needed rescue from such a comprehensively hostile environment. The logistics of evacuating an entire planet's population seemed impossible. We need to contact the Collective Council immediately, she decided. This is beyond our standard first contact protocols. These humans need emergency assistance on a scale we have never provided before. As the aliens prepared their emergency aid request, they had no idea that they had completely misunderstood everything about Earth and its inhabitants. The humans, meanwhile, the moment Ambassador Veltara's delegation stepped off their shuttle onto the landing platform at Incheon International Airport, they knew something was terribly wrong, and the environmental suits they wore were the most advanced protection technology in the galaxy, designed to keep them safe on the most hostile worlds known to the collective. The suits were failing. Dr. Kimseth's pressure readings showed that Earth's atmosphere was trying to crush his gas-filled body with a force that registered as extreme hazard on his equipment, and the gravity was pulling at him with nearly 3 times the force of his homeworld, making every movement exhausting even with his suit's mechanical assistance. The atmospheric density is off the scale, he reported. Through the communication system, his voice strained from the effort of speaking under such pressure. How do these humans function in these conditions? Captain Holran was the only one of the 3 who could move relatively normally, but even his mineral-based body was struggling with Earth's gravity, which was 50% higher than his heavy world home, and the atmospheric composition was so rich in reactive oxygen that his suit's filters were working at maximum capacity to prevent chemical burns to his respiratory system. Ambassador, Veltara's aquatic physiology was completely overwhelmed by the environmental assault, and her suit's life support systems were consuming power at 3 times the normal rate just to maintain a survivable internal pressure, while the gravity made her feel like she was being pressed into the ground by an invisible weight. Director Tae-sung approached the alien delegation with a warm smile. Completely unaware that the visitors were experiencing what they considered to be life-threatening environmental conditions, and he had chosen to meet them outdoors on what he considered a perfect spring day, 22 degrees Celsius with a light breeze and partly cloudy skies. "Welcome to Earth," Director Tae-sung said cheerfully. "I hope you find our planet pleasant." The aliens exchanged glances of horror inside their helmets, because what the human considered pleasant was registering as a Class 5 environmental disaster on all their monitoring equipment, and the light breeze was creating pressure variations that their suits interpreted as dangerous atmospheric instability. Dr. Kimseth tried to take atmospheric readings and immediately regretted it when his sensors detected the presence of diatomic oxygen at concentrations that would be toxic to 87% of known galactic species, and the atmospheric pressure readings were so high that his equipment initially assumed there was a sensor malfunction. "The air itself is poisonous," he whispered to his colleagues through their private communication channel. "How are they breathing this?" Lieutenant Commander Dae-ho joined the welcoming committee and noticed that the aliens seemed to be moving very carefully in their environmental suits, and he assumed they were being cautious about Earth's unfamiliar environment, not realizing that they were struggling to survive what humans considered normal conditions. "Would you like to go inside where it's more comfortable?" Dae-ho offered, thinking the aliens might prefer air conditioning to the outdoor environment. Ambassador Veltara accepted immediately, hoping that human buildings would provide some relief from the harsh planetary conditions. But when they entered the airport terminal, her environmental readings became even more alarming because the building's internal pressure was identical to the outside environment. "They don't use pressure-controlled environments," she reported to her ship in a voice filled with disbelief. "Their buildings maintain the same lethal atmospheric conditions as the outside." Captain Holron was studying the human crowds in the airport and becoming increasingly worried about the delegation's safety, because every human they could see was moving freely without any protective equipment, breathing the toxic atmosphere, and functioning normally under crushing gravity that would disable most galactic species. Dr. Yunmi approached the group with enthusiasm, eager to begin formal linguistic and cultural exchange with the alien visitors, but she noticed that they seemed reluctant to remove their helmets or interact directly with the environment. "Are you comfortable?" she asked politely. "We can adjust the air conditioning if the temperature isn't right for your species." The aliens realized that the humans genuinely did not understand that their planet was hostile to life, and Dr. Kimseth made a decision that would prove to be a catastrophic mistake when he attempted to explain the situation. "Your planet's environmental conditions are extremely dangerous," he said through the translation system. "The atmospheric pressure, gravity, and chemical composition would be fatal to most galactic species. How do you survive here?" Dr. Yunmi looked confused by this statement because, from her perspective, Earth's conditions were just normal environmental parameters, and she assumed the aliens came from a very different type of world with much gentler conditions. "This is just regular Earth weather," she explained. "The pressure is normal atmospheric pressure, about 14.7 pounds per square inch. The gravity is 1 Earth gravity, which is what we evolved in. The air is about 21% oxygen and 78% nitrogen." Each number Dr. Yunmi mentioned sent waves of terror through the alien delegation because they were describing environmental conditions that exceeded the safety parameters for every species in the Galactic Harmony Collective and the casual way she discussed them made it clear that humans considered these lethal conditions to be completely routine. The situation became worse when rescue team leader Hyun-woo arrived to give the aliens a demonstration of human emergency response capabilities, and he had been asked to explain how humans dealt with natural disasters, not realizing that the aliens already considered Earth's normal conditions to be disasters. "Last winter, I was caught in an avalanche while skiing," Hyun-woo mentioned casually during his presentation. "Had to dig myself out and hike 15 kilometers through a blizzard to reach safety. Standard mountain rescue procedure." Dr. Kimzeth's life support system began emitting warning alarms because his stress levels had spiked to dangerous levels when he processed what the human had just described and the idea that someone could survive being buried under tons of frozen atmospheric precipitation and then travel long distances through hostile weather conditions was impossible, according to everything he knew about biology. "You survived being crushed by frozen atmospheric precipitation?" Dr. Kimseth asked, in a voice that was barely audible through his suit's communication system. "The avalanche, sure," Hyunwoo replied cheerfully. "Happens sometimes in the mountains. You learn to stay calm and dig up toward the air pocket. The trick is not to panic." Ambassador Veltara was beginning to understand that humans did not merely survive on their death world. They had evolved to consider surviving disasters to be routine activities, and the realization was so overwhelming that she requested immediate medical support from the ship. Chef Boram had been invited to demonstrate human cuisine to the alien visitors, not knowing that her planned menu would be interpreted as evidence of humanity's extreme adaptation to toxic environments, and she began by explaining the fermentation process used to make kimchi. "We take vegetables and encourage specific bacteria to grow in them," Boram explained enthusiastically. "The controlled decomposition creates beneficial microorganisms that help with digestion and preservation." The aliens stared in horror as the human chef described deliberately cultivating bacterial colonies and consuming the results because controlled biological contamination was used as a weapon of war by some of the most aggressive species in the galaxy, and humans were doing it to their food for pleasure. "You consume living bacterial colonies?" Captain Holran asked, his rocky voice cracking with disbelief. "Fermented foods are very healthy," Boram replied, offering the aliens a sample of kimchi that their sensors immediately classified as biologically active and potentially lethal to non-adapted species. Farmer Dongmin's explanation of agriculture made the situation even worse when he described the soil conditions that humans used for growing food, and his casual mention of working with contaminated soil that required constant chemical treatment to remain productive convinced the aliens that humans were farming in toxic waste. "The soil naturally contains heavy metals and requires pH adjustment," Dongmin explained. "We test for contamination levels and treat the ground to make it suitable for crops." Dr. Kimzeth's xenobiology training told him that any soil requiring chemical treatment to support life was unsuitable for habitation. Yet humans had somehow learned to thrive in these conditions and create agricultural abundance from poisoned ground. The final revelation came when 8-year-old Ji-hoon was brought to meet the alien visitors as part of a cultural exchange program, and his innocent presence triggered the aliens' threat assessment systems in ways that no adult human had managed to achieve. Ji-hoon approached the aliens without any protective equipment, breathing the toxic atmosphere and moving easily under the crushing gravity. But what terrified the aliens most was his casual mention of losing a tooth the previous week. "My tooth fell out," Ji-hoon announced proudly, showing the aliens the gap in his smile. "Mom says I'll grow a new one." Dr. Kimzeth spent 3 days analyzing human biological samples, and the results made him question everything he thought he knew about life in the universe, and every test revealed capabilities that should have been impossible, according to galactic standards for biological development. The human blood samples showed an oxygen-carrying capacity that was 50% higher than any known species, which explained how they could function in Earth's toxic atmosphere. But even more disturbing was their immune system, which appeared to be in constant warfare with microscopic organisms that would be classified as biological weapons by most galactic civilizations. "Their bodies are fighting off thousands of potential infections every day," Dr. Kimzeth reported to Ambassador Veltara in a voice filled with scientific wonder and terror. "They have weaponized their own immune systems to survive in an environment saturated with hostile microorganisms." The muscle tissue analysis revealed that human skeletal structure was designed to operate under gravitational stress that would crush most galactic species, and their bone density was 3 times higher than typical for carbon-based life forms, creating a biological framework that could withstand impacts that would shatter normal beings. Marathon runner Yu Jin had volunteered to participate in physical capability testing for the alien research team, and her casual 26-mile run through Seoul's streets provided data that forced the aliens to completely redefine their understanding of biological endurance limits. She maintained continuous locomotion for over 4 hours without mechanical assistance, Dr. Kimzeth explained to Captain Holran. The energy expenditure would be equivalent to an emergency escape march across hostile territory, but she described it as recreational exercise. Captain Holran studied the biometric data from Yujin's run and realized that her heart rate, breathing patterns, and energy consumption indicated a level of physical conditioning that exceeded most military species in their prime combat form, and she had achieved this through voluntary training for personal satisfaction. Their recreational activities exceed our military training standards, Captain Holran reported to the Collective Council through emergency channels. This species maintains combat readiness as a lifestyle choice. Chef Inho's explanation of alcohol consumption created another crisis for the alien research team when he casually mentioned drinking fermented beverages during social gatherings, and Dr. Kimzeth's analysis of ethanol revealed that it was a cellular toxin that would cause immediate organ failure in 89% of galactic species. They voluntarily consume poison for social bonding, Dr. Kimzeth reported with something approaching hysteria in his voice. Their liver function has evolved to process substances that would be used as chemical weapons against most civilizations. The alien medical team requested emergency consultation with toxicology specialists from across the collective to understand how humans had developed resistance to so many lethal substances, and the answers they received suggested that Earth was essentially a planetary-scale chemical warfare laboratory. Student Seo Jun provided another shock to the research team when he mentioned drinking alcohol while studying for final exams, and the aliens realized that humans regularly consumed cellular toxins during periods of mental stress to enhance their cognitive performance. They use poison as a performance enhancement tool, Ambassador Veltara transmitted to the Collective Council. This species has turned environmental toxins into recreational substances. The alien ship's psychological assessment team was working around the clock to understand how human mental processes could function under conditions that would cause immediate trauma response in normal species, and their preliminary findings suggested that humans had evolved psychological structures that were fundamentally different from all known forms of galactic life. Captain Holran received the military analysis reports and found himself facing a tactical assessment nightmare because every aspect of human capability exceeded the parameters used to evaluate threat levels in galactic space, and the species appeared to be naturally adapted for survival in conditions that would be used to test elite special forces units. Their children demonstrate greater environmental resistance than our trained military personnel, Captain Holran reported in his daily briefing. 8-year-old specimens show no stress response to gravity levels that require mechanical assistance for our heavy world species. The economic implications of human capabilities were beginning to dawn on Trade Coordinator Nixara as she analyzed the resource requirements for supporting human life and discovered that they needed minimal external support to maintain their civilization on a planet that should have been uninhabitable. They have domesticated hundreds of species that our databases classify as dangerous predators, Nixara reported to the Trade Council. Their agricultural systems produce food abundance in soil conditions that we would classify as contaminated wasteland. The domestication issue became a diplomatic crisis when the aliens learned that humans shared their living spaces with carnivorous mammals, and Dr. Kimzeth's analysis of common house pets revealed that dogs and cats were descended from pack hunters and solitary predators that would be considered dangerous wildlife on most galactic worlds. They form emotional bonds with predatory species and invite them into their homes, Dr. Kimzeth explained to the increasingly horrified alien delegation. The predators appear to have been selectively bred for compatibility with human domestic life. Ambassador Veltara requested an emergency session with the collective's xenopsychology department to understand how a species could psychologically bond with creatures that posed a potential threat, and the response she received suggested that humans had somehow reversed the normal predator-prey relationship through sheer force of will. The revelation about human childbirth sent the alien medical team into complete panic when Dr. Jaewon explained the normal process of human reproduction, and the physical trauma involved in bringing new humans into the world exceeded anything in the medical databases of civilized species. The reproductive process involves massive physical trauma that would be classified as life-threatening injury, Dr. Kimzeth reported while requesting immediate psychiatric support. The female specimens survive tissue damage that would require emergency surgery in any known species, then repeat the process voluntarily. The aliens began to understand that humans were not just surviving on a death world. They had become the apex predators of a planet that was more dangerous than anything in their experience, and every aspect of human biology and behavior had evolved to dominate an environment that would kill most galactic life forms within hours. Captain Holron compiled his final military assessment and transmitted it to the Collective Defense Council with a priority level that had never been used in peaceful first contact situations, and his conclusions would reshape galactic strategic thinking for generations. Threat assessment, maximum. Species classification, apex predator. Recommended response, immediate diplomatic alliance. Military engagement, not recommended under any circumstances. These beings have evolved beyond our classification systems. The trait analysis revealed that humans had created technologies specifically designed to function in their hostile environment, and these innovations could revolutionize survival capabilities across the galaxy if properly adapted. And trade coordinator, Nixara realized that Earth represented the greatest technological opportunity in galactic history. Their basic survival equipment exceeds our emergency response technology, Nixara reported. They have developed solutions to problems we did not know could be solved. Ambassador Veltara faced a diplomatic crisis unlike anything in collective history because standard first contact protocols assumed that advanced species would want to leave their dangerous homeworlds for safer galactic territories. But humans showed no interest in abandoning Earth despite its lethal conditions. They express affection for their death world, Veltara reported to the diplomatic corps. They described the dangerous conditions as beautiful and home. This species has formed emotional attachments to environmental hazards. Dr. Kimseth completed his comprehensive biological analysis and submitted findings that would require the collective to create entirely new categories for classifying life forms, because humans exceeded every existing parameter for survival capability, environmental, adaptation, and biological resilience. Conclusion: this species represents a new form of life, Dr. Kimseth wrote in his report. They have achieved biological capabilities that our science considered theoretically impossible. They are living proof that evolution can produce apex survivors under the most extreme conditions imaginable. The alien delegation prepared their final report for the Collective Council with the understanding that everything they had learned about humans would change galactic civilization forever, and the implications of contact with a species of apex predator survivors would reshape how the galaxy thought about life, survival, and the possibilities of biological evolution. Captain Holron sent his personal assessment to the military command with a simple message that summarized the entire situation. Recommend immediate alliance. These beings could teach us to survive anything. The emergency session of the Galactic Harmony Collective Council lasted for 6 standard days, as representatives from 847 member species tried to process the implications of Ambassador Veltara's report about humanity, and the conclusions reached would fundamentally alter the structure of galactic civilization. Council Prime Zexandra, an ancient crystalline being who had guided the collective for over 2 millennia, called for order as delegates continued their heated discussions about how to integrate a species that defied every known law of biological development and survival capability. The evidence is overwhelming, Council Prime Zexandra announced to the assembled representatives. These humans have evolved capabilities that exceed our understanding of what life can achieve. We must adapt our protocols accordingly. Admiral Kyung-soo of the Korean Space Force was invited to address the Collective Council through holographic transmission from Earth, and his presentation about human space exploration goals shocked the alien delegates who had assumed that any intelligent species would want to escape their dangerous homeworld as quickly as possible. Our goal is not to abandon Earth, Admiral Kyung-soo explained to the stunned alien audience. We want to explore space while maintaining our connection to our home planet. Earth shaped us, and we have no desire to leave it behind. The concept of voluntary attachment to a death world was so alien to galactic thinking that it required 3 xenopsychology specialists to explain to the Council how humans had developed emotional bonds with environmental hazards, and the implications suggested that humanity represented a completely new form of consciousness. Dr. Haiwan from Seoul National University was asked to demonstrate human medical knowledge to the collective's medical council, and her casual discussion of treating injuries and diseases that would be considered fatal to most galactic species caused several alien doctors to request immediate psychological support. Humans routinely survive medical conditions that we classify as terminal, reported Dr. Silvera to the Medical Council. Their healing capabilities and pain tolerance exceed anything in our databases. They could revolutionize galactic medicine. Engineer Wu Jin presented his designs for human-built spacecraft, and the alien engineers were amazed to discover that human space technology was specifically designed to function in hostile environments without the extensive safety systems that galactic vessels required. Their spacecraft can operate in conditions that would destroy our most advanced vessels, reported the collective's chief engineer. They build everything assuming it will face extreme stress and potential failure. This philosophy could transform our approach to technology. The decision to establish the Terran Integration Accord was unanimous once the Council realized that humans offered solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilization for thousands of years, and the agreement would create the first Deathworld Integration Protocol in collective history. Captain Holron volunteered to become the first alien to undergo basic human survival training, and his experience attempting to hike through Seoraksan National Park became legendary throughout the galaxy as an example of just how extreme normal human activities really were. The humans call this beginner-level outdoor recreation, Captain Holren reported after completing a 3-kilometer hike that required him to use full environmental protection and mechanical assistance. They consider this suitable activity for their children. Dr. Kimseth established the first xenobiology research station on Earth to study how humans had achieved their impossible biological capabilities, and his daily reports to the scientific community revolutionized understanding of evolutionary development and survival adaptation. Every day brings new discoveries about human capability, Dr. Kimseth transmitted to research stations across the galaxy. They continue to demonstrate abilities that our science says should not exist. Young Ji-hoon became an unofficial ambassador between human children and alien visitors when he volunteered to help teach basic Earth survival skills to alien cadets, and his patient explanations of concepts like playing in the rain and climbing trees became required viewing for xenocultural studies programs. The small human shows no fear response to environmental conditions that trigger panic in adult alien specimens, reported the educational assessment team. Human children appear to be naturally adapted for survival training that would challenge our military specialists. The establishment of the first Galactic Emergency Response Training Center on Earth marked the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization as species from across the collective sent their best personnel to learn human survival techniques, and the results exceeded everyone's expectations. Sergeant Bin Ho and Corporal So Young were assigned as the primary instructors for alien emergency response training, and their gentle approach to teaching basic skills like walking in weather and sleeping outdoors became the foundation for a completely new approach to galactic safety protocols. The humans are patient teachers, reported the first class of alien emergency response graduates. They understand that what seems impossible to us is routine for them, and they adjust their instruction accordingly. The economic impact of human integration transformed galactic trade as planets previously considered uninhabitable were reclassified as human-suitable, and colonization projects that had been abandoned for centuries were revived with human technical assistance. Trade coordinator Nix Ara established the first human-alien joint ventures focused on developing survival technologies for extreme environments, and the innovations produced by combining human engineering philosophy with alien advanced materials created a new category of ultra-reliable equipment. Human design principles combined with our manufacturing capabilities produce technologies that can function in previously impossible conditions, Nixara reported to the Trade Council. We are developing equipment that could open up entire sectors of space that were considered too dangerous for habitation. The military implications of human alliance became clear when the collective faced their first major crisis since establishing relations with Earth, and a rogue AI system had taken control of a mining station in a hazardous star system that was too dangerous for normal rescue operations. Captain Holran led the first joint human-alien military operation and watched in amazement as human personnel operated effectively in conditions that required his team to use maximum environmental protection while the humans worked with standard spacesuits and basic equipment. The humans completed the rescue operation in conditions that our tactical computers classified as unsurvivable, Captain Holran reported. They succeeded where our most advanced military units would have failed. Ambassador Veltara established the first permanent diplomatic exchange between Earth and the collective capital, and her reports on human cultural adaptation continued to provide insights that helped other species understand how to benefit from humanity's unique capabilities. Humans do not see themselves as exceptional, Veltara wrote in her final report on human integration. They consider their capabilities to be normal and are genuinely puzzled by our amazement at their achievements. This humility makes them ideal partners for galactic cooperation. Dr. Haiwan's medical exchange program brought alien doctors to Earth to study human healing techniques, and the knowledge gained revolutionized treatment approaches for species across the galaxy who had previously considered certain injuries and diseases to be untreatable. Human medical philosophy assumes that almost any condition can be treated or managed, reported Dr. Silvera after completing her training on Earth. This optimistic approach has led to breakthrough treatments that we never considered possible. The establishment of the Human Advisory Council within the collective government marked the formal recognition that humanity had become an essential part of galactic civilization, and human representatives began providing guidance on projects that required survival capabilities beyond normal galactic standards. Engineer Wu Jin led the first human-designed terraforming project to convert a previously uninhabitable world into a garden planet suitable for galactic species, and the success of the project, using techniques adapted from Earth's extreme environments, proved that human knowledge could expand the boundaries of galactic civilization. The humans accomplished in 2 years what our models said would take decades, reported the terraforming assessment team. Their approach to working with hostile environments, rather than against them, revolutionized our entire methodology. Final transformation came when young Ji-hoon, now a teenager, graduated from the first integrated human-alien academy and became a symbol of the successful integration between Earth and the collective, and his casual competence in both human survival, skills, and galactic technology represented the future of interspecies cooperation. The young human demonstrates that the gap between human and galactic capabilities can be bridged through education and mutual understanding, reported the Academy Assessment Board. He represents the potential for a new generation of beings who combine the best of both civilizations. The galaxy learned that the most dangerous species they had ever encountered was also the most helpful, and humanity's integration into galactic civilization proved that survival skills,